Prince William has reportedly cried after Princess Catherine shared a painful update about their children. What started as a simple family update has upset the royal household and surprised the public. Sources say Catherine's news was so personal and tragic that even William, who usually stays composed, couldn't hold back his tears. So, what caused this sadness in the royal family? Let's look at the details. A mother's cry beneath the palace gates. That morning, outside Kensington Palace, it felt tense. The air was thick and still, as if something was about to happen. Even the pigeons, usually hopping around, seemed nervous and stayed low. Reporters who had been waiting for days leaned in, whispering as the doors opened. Then, Catherine stepped out. She was alone without her team or security. She didn't seem poised like usual. Instead, she looked determined. The polished duchess we often see was gone. This was a woman who seemed raw and intense, ready to stand her ground. As she walked toward the microphones, her hands shook a little, not from nerves, but from the weight of what she was about to say. Years of being the perfect mother and wife crumbled away. Today, she was not trying to keep that image. She was tearing it down. Behind her, the gray stone of Kensington loomed, making the moment feel serious. The nursery windows, once filled with children's laughter, were now quiet, as if they knew the fairy tale was falling apart. The public loved the image of the royal family, complete with their perfect smiles and staged moments. But Catherine's voice carried the weight of something more profound. Aides nearby exchanged worried whispers, unsure whether to pull her back. But it was too late. Catherine was focused, adjusting the stand. There was no fancy backdrop, just cold stone and a tense atmosphere as everyone waited for her words. She looked up, her eyes shining with emotion, intense but not breaking. For the first time, the cameras captured not a warm smile, but a mother's pain. Silence hung in the air, and everyone knew that once she spoke, things would change forever. Her voice started shaky, but grew stronger as she continued. "My quiet," she said softly, "was eating me alive. Worse than any storm." Her words broke through the royal tradition of keeping calm, causing gasps among the crowd. This was not the usual polished duchess. It was a heartfelt confession. Catherine talked about her children not as royal figures, but as young kids facing pressures they didn't choose. She shared their struggles, George's tears after waving, Charlotte's confusion about fun, and Louis's innocent question about her sadness. The image of royal happiness was shattered. "They're just kids," she said, her voice wavering. "But every day, they have to deal with what they're supposed to be." Her message hit hard. Catherine was not attacking the institution. She was pleading for her children to be seen as human and messy. Then her tone shifted. She described how the press twisted every joyful moment for public consumption. "The Crown's control over perfect images has turned their lives into a spectacle," she said firmly, her resolve shining through. Everyone listened closely, realizing she was speaking not just as a royal, but as a mother protecting her kids. Her words challenged the royal family's control and secrecy, revealing the struggle many face to maintain a brave front. But this was just the beginning. The palace was reeling from what she had said, but Catherine was ready to keep going. What more could she unveil? Stay tuned. There was more to come. The hidden war inside the royal nursery. Behind the shiny walls of Kensington and Windsor, things are not as cheerful as they seem. The royal nursery, presented as a joyful place full of laughter and toys, hides a sad reality. Each day for these children is tightly organized. Lessons are planned, walks are scripted, and even laughter is controlled, as if to say, that's enough happiness for the cameras. There is no space for messiness or just being kids. It's not about raising children, it's about shaping them. George, the oldest, feels the heavy burden of being the future king too soon. Catherine describes how her curious son began to withdraw, becoming quiet and anxious. "What if I don't want to be king?" he whispers at bedtime, worried he might not be enough. The staff dismisses his feelings with a polished reply. "Fate's not optional, lad." But Catherine sees the change in him, his smiles replaced by stiffness, his small shoulders weighed down by a burden no child should bear. Charlotte, on the other hand, is full of spirit and challenges the strict rules. She wants to know why everything must be so proper. Catherine feels proud when Charlotte fights for her freedom, but it comes at a cost. Every time Charlotte expresses herself, she faces reprimands and reminders that duty comes first. To the palace, Charlotte's lively spirit is an inconvenience to control. To Catherine, it's a sign of life struggling against strict traditions. Then there is little Louis, too young to understand the pressures around him but already affected. Catherine tearfully shares how he freezes at the sound of camera flashes, strangers calling his name like it's a game, but to him, it's frightening. While the public finds his reactions endearing, he feels threatened by the attention. Even his innocent world is not safe from outside scrutiny. As Catherine shares these experiences, her pain becomes clear. She once believed the challenges would get easier, thinking, "That's just the royal way." But as silence filled their home instead of laughter, she saw it was more than just pressure. It was a system training them to perform, one that discouraged showing emotion. What she revealed next was even more unsettling, the discipline that looked like care. Her children learned to hide their tears and calm their fears, seeing vulnerability as a sign of weakness. They got praised for their composure, but were reprimanded for being real. "They're not learning to lead," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. "They're learning to act." This statement hit hard. Childhood was not a time of joy. It was a dry rehearsal for the spotlight. Catherine's tone grew fierce as she explained how the palace controlled her role as a mother. "Take a step back. Let them toughen up alone." This cold attitude had harmed royals before, leaving them to wear crowns while suffering inside. Her voice broke as she said, "No mother should be told that love is a hazard." Even William, caught in this system, was nudged to put duty over love, forced to keep his affection at a distance. "He adores them," she insisted, "but he's learned to keep that distance." The weight of her words was heavy, recalling another time, another mother, and another painful loss. Though she didn't say Diana's name, her presence was deeply felt. Catherine's fierce defense of her children echoed the spirit of the people's princess, who also fought against a system that sought to control her. Around the world, it felt like history repeating itself. Catherine carrying on Diana's fight for authenticity in a rigid household. People applauded her bravery, but inside the palace, the mood turned serious. Behind those grand doors, the future king faced his own hidden pain. This struggle could leave William vulnerable, a moment that might expose what the crown has tried to ignore. Hang on tight. Prince William's breaking point. For Prince William, that day felt like a reminder of his past. Catherine's voice, shaky and raw, echoed through Kensington, refusing to fade. Her words broke through his royal facade, leaving him uncertain of where he fit. He felt proud of her courage, but it also hurt because she reflected his own struggles. He, the man prepared to uphold the monarchy, felt torn between his duty to the institution and his love for his family. In his quiet room, time seemed to slow down. Outside there was chaos. Phones rang, aides hurried, and security personnel spoke urgently into their earpieces. But William sat still, watching Catherine's speech play over and over. Each word weighed heavily. Her fierce face reminded him of his mother, making it hard to breathe. The same defiance Diana had shown now burned in Catherine, and that scared him because he knew the cost of challenging royal traditions. Panic rippled through the hallways. Officials and advisors rushed around, speaking urgently. They wanted a strong response to control the story. But behind their smooth words was an old plan. Silence her, confuse the message, and make it go away. They aimed to cover up the truth. William, however, longed for honesty. He couldn't find the words. Every response they suggested, denial, deflection, pretending everything was fine, felt like betrayal. Advisors pushed him, claiming his silence was damaging, threatening the royal image. But he drowned them out, hearing his mother's voice in his head. Choose the truth over appearances, always. It will hurt, but it's the only way. This realization struck him hard. He had spent years hiding the pain from his mother's last fight, the desperate look in her eyes as she tried to protect him and Harry from a family that didn't truly support them. He remembered the forced smiles from people in suits telling her to keep it together, and the loneliness she faced when she wouldn't conform. Now Catherine stood alone and brave in the storm, and they expected him to silence her as they had silenced Diana. The wall he had built inside broke. After the advisors left, William leaned forward, cradling his face in his hands, tears streaming down. It wasn't only about Catherine's pain. It was everything he had buried. His mother's light gone, the heavy duty he carried, and the harsh way love becomes a burden behind closed doors. He thought about his own children, George, Charlotte, and Louis. 3 small lights already dimmed by the same pressure that had extinguished their grandmother's spark. The thought hurt deeply. "Whatever it takes," he whispered to the empty room, his voice shaky. "I'll keep them safe." This wasn't just royal duty, it was a father's desperate promise. He knew this decision would change him, impact his reputation and role. But something had shifted in him. The boy who had watched his mother fade had finally found his purpose: to protect his family's peace. This choice sparked a new challenge. It was not just him against her. It was him against the royal expectations. He had to hold on tight. King Charles's order, and the Catherine effect. When Catherine spoke at Buckingham Palace that afternoon, everyone held their breath. The corridors went quiet, and the chandeliers cast long, shaky shadows, as if sensing a significant change was coming. For Charles, this wasn't just a heartfelt message from a mother. It was a challenge to the throne. After facing leaks, betrayals, and family disputes for decades, this struck him personally. Camilla was furious. To her, Kate's raw plea was not bravery. It felt like a clever way to turn public opinion against the system that bestowed the title of Duchess on her. "Using mum mode as a weapon," she reportedly said, her voice tense. What hurt her most was the sudden change in sympathy, from keeping a stiff upper lip to "poor thing." Camilla had suffered through hate mail and criticism to earn her place. Now, one emotional moment from Kate made her the hero. It felt like a blow to her gut. Behind closed doors, tensions rose. An hour later, Charles called an urgent meeting in a bright red room filled with anxious aides. Papers flew, and voices rose as everyone argued over how to fix the problem immediately. The king demanded answers, saying, "Make it stop." There was no room for discussion, just the palace machine kicking into gear. Spin the story, control the narrative, and hide the scandal. Charles didn't want excuses. He wanted a solution. "She can't speak again," he said flatly, ending the conversation. Boom. No more talking aloud. Camilla's anger grew. She had worked hard to be seen as queen consort, and Kate's single comment seemed to erase all of that. In the public's eyes, Camilla was the steady figure, admired but kept at a distance. Kate, on the other hand, was relatable, imperfect yet strong, the mother everyone could root for. That difference? It was Camilla's worst nightmare. Soon, leaks began. Palace sources told tabloids that Kate was falling apart, vulnerable, and withdrawing. They recycled old narratives reminiscent of Diana's most challenging times. But the world had changed. People were no longer buying those stories. The attacks backfired, making Kate the unlikely heroine. Social media exploded with support. Artistic tributes, inspiring quotes, and murals urging, "Let Kate be Kate." She transformed from the Duchess doll to the every mother fighting to let her kids be themselves. The press couldn't contain the excitement. What started as a royal rift turned into the Kate wave. News anchors repeated her words as if they were gospel, and pundits who had previously criticized her were now praising her bravery. Even seasoned royal reporters admitted, "We've never seen them this open, this bold." The tabloids that once tracked her now celebrated the heart that cracked the crown. The public stopped viewing her as just the Duchess of Cambridge. They saw Kate, flawed, fierce, and fighting for her children's right to be loud and messy. Meanwhile, palace officials panicked. Each moment without a royal response made them look colder and out of touch. Inside, Charles's team scrambled. Courtiers whispered urgently. William felt caught between his duty and loyalty to his family. Then came a confrontation that ended any truce. William, usually the calm one, burst into his father's study, upset. "She had to say it," he insisted, voice breaking. "It's for the kids, not against you." Charles, focused on his role as king, replied, "She's destroying what we've worked hard to build." Tempers flared. Camilla tried to step in, but William cut her off. "Silence her, and you'll lose me too." It wasn't anger. It was heartbreak. The heir chose family over tradition, emotions over control. That night, Buckingham Palace was quiet, but it was only a pause before the storm. The cracks in the crown were large now, and the world was watching closely. From London to around the globe, people were rising, not in anger, but with empathy. Kate's moment was more than personal. It was a spark for change. And as this fire spread, one question loomed. Is it a mother's plea for help or a quiet rebellion against the system holding her family back? Share your thoughts below. If Kate's courage inspired you, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights into the royal family.